Oh, the screen is so big.
Right? Thank you. Let's actually make a video with it. Folks, 18 months ago, Nikon bought Red, and we've seen some exciting, yeah, please come with me. We've seen some exciting things. They've got a couple of different Red cameras out now that are using the Z mount. Great to see. Now we're starting to see what I think a lot of us were hoping would come from that acquisition. Red technology in a mirrorless body. Here with the first Z Cinema line camera yet, we have the ZR. It's under tape right now, but you just have to trust me. That's what this guy is. It's based on the Z6 III, but it has some important enhancements, and I'm kind of conflicted. Cut to B-roll. And then we're walking, we'll just change the frame. Was that should I do it one more time, or you think that's fine? Okay, let's keep walking then. Okay, shouldn't have been doing that with a brand new camera, but anyway, it's fun. Essentially, this is a first hands-on. I have actually had a few hours filming with this to film for my expert setup guide. If you haven't seen that already, it runs through every Nikon Z camera in the market, which is why I filmed to update this one. So much new stuff. Essentially, think of this as a Z6 III, and then we'll take our kickoff point from that. It's using the same sensor, capable of 6K 60, 4K 120, but in DX crop, but it has some significant changes as well. So let's talk about what's been removed and then talk about what's been added. So it doesn't have a mechanical shutter now. It's no longer using CF Express and SD card. It's now using CF Express and micro SD. And the one thing that when I read this on the spec sheet, sorry to my Nikon brothers and sisters, it kind of left me face palming and thinking, what a dumb move. Micro HDMI. This is a full frame cinema camera with Red technology inside with micro HDMI. But I have to say, having been hands-on with it, I kind of get it. It's actually excusable, and maybe actually I'm gonna wanna buy one of these. So those are the things that have been removed, obviously, and the EVF. But what's been added is pretty significant. So a lot of it is firmware. The support for R3D log raw video, that's kind of epic, gives you access to all that workflow. This is also supported by Nikon Imaging Cloud, so you're able to download all the different features from Imaging Cloud, but also you can get 3D LUTs and Red only profiles that are available just for this camera, not for the other cameras that use the system. It's now got a gigantic 4-inch DCI P3 gamut touchscreen that works really well. Completely redesigned, top panel, back panel. Now the battery and cards are in there together. There's a lot of great stuff in here. It still has the same IBIS as the previous generation. It's also adding in something that I don't think I've seen on any camera before, internal 32-bit float for your audio, whether you're using the inbuilt mic or plugging in mics. It's also taking a leaf from Sony's playbook, giving us the enhanced hot shoe that lets you put in like a digital microphone. They've got a new shotgun one for that. Also, the built-in mic is supporting Ozo audio, so you can have 5 different profiles for how it's picking up audio. There's a lot of cool stuff in here. So with the Z6 III sitting at around $2,700, as I was sitting with my Nikon rep today looking at what's been added and removed, my guess was it's going to come in at like $3,000, hopefully $3,200, $3,300 realistically, but they've actually gone in the opposite direction. It's coming in at $2,200 US, $500 cheaper than the Z6 III. Honestly, watch out Sony, because this is almost half the price of the FX3A right now. It's lighter than the FX3, it's lighter than the Canon equivalent, it's even lighter than FX30 from Sony, which is an APS-C camera. It's got the biggest touchscreen other than Blackmagic, but it's only a 1080 screen. the brightest and the highest resolution display, and it's by far the lightest on the market, and it's the cheapest. So yes, they're saving money with no mechanical shutter, not having an EVF, not using full-size HDMI or full-size SD. But given that this guy has the enhanced hot shoe, 32-bit float, a screen that you can tilt around to see yourself when you're filming, actually, are you going to be using the HDMI out when you can record all the video formats to the internal card? So I need to shoot with it a bit more, but it kind of all makes sense as an all-in-one third or second camera if you're shooting in the Red ecosystem. Now, by the way, I currently have the Smallrig grip on this guy. They've come out with this one as well as a full cage with a top handle ready to go on launch with this camera. Funnily enough, I've just been through the process of making a cage myself. If you happen to be picking up the new X2D2 and you're interested in a custom titanium cage for your camera, check out the link in my link tree below. Now, I think it's fair to say Honey is a better model than photographer, but she's always great fun to shoot with. Check out her social media below. And if you want to see more of our content together, check out my page, Patreon Uncut. It has behind the scenes boudoir shoots with her and most of the models you see on the channel. I'm posting unseen video clips and final photos there almost daily. But of course, this camera, whilst it's so video-centric, it still is just as capable a still shooter as the Z6 III with the omission of the EVF. It's the same sensor, you get all of the same autofocus options as that. It's a fully rounded stills camera really, with the enhancements for video. I never considered buying the Z6 III for myself, but I really would consider this just for that. When I'm filming a course overseas and I don't have a videographer with me, having to have an Atomos and an extra battery and cables and another stand set up, it's a pain in the ass to be able to monitor yourself. This is actually helpful. I think a lot of people think it's just for vain vloggers who want to look at themselves all day, but there are real professional applications for having that kind of a screen. And this could save you $1,000 by not having to buy an Atomos batteries and cables, especially because micro HDMI cables break all the damn time. I'm filming. You see the red light on the front of the camera? Oh, yes. That tells you I'm filming. High technology, right?
Hello. Hi. Oh, I can switch. This lens come with the body, or you just change it? Or
You still rolling?
yeah.
Excellent question. This is actually the latest lens they released, which is the new version of that one, which I own. So I don't buy everything because I haven't bought this. But the cool thing about it, which actually is for video, this is a big zoom lens. But this is the only one on the market that when you do that, the lens doesn't get longer and shorter.
Can you shoot animal like leopard from
It's not
long
that
distance?
big of a zoom, no. Well, you can, but not from long distance.
Okay.
But the point is that when you're doing video like he is now on a gimbal, when you do that, the weight will change and then it makes it hard on the gimbal. This one doesn't change, which is incredible. So releasing that, then this is actually a really smart move. This is a great combo. Miss Chen.
How about stability?
Stability, excellent question.
You know,
We actually
with
didn't set this up.
DJI, it's so stable.
Okay, so that's a whole different thing, have it, because your little DJI is a gimbal itself, so yours is that.
Yeah.
This doesn't have all that, but this does have a sensor stabilization, so you're not going to do all your handheld filming with this unless you're a ninja, but for stills, the stabilization is good. Any other question you can ask that looks like I forced it to you to make the video easier, but you're actually coming up with?
No, okay, for now I'm good. I will interrupt you anytime if I have questions.
Great.
With this. It's right now. 我哋朋友。
There's actually
Matt,
so many. What?
What is red color science?
Okay, that's one of the things I need to run through. So, Red is a professional cinema camera like these. They're like a little square cube. That, long story short, Nikon bought them, and what they had was, apart from the technology, they had a patent that let them do in-camera RAW, which you probably don't care about, but a lot of cameras couldn't do that because they own the patent for it, like the copyright. Now Nikon bought it, they own the copyright for it. So one of the things that they're famous for is their video compression, their file formats are really good, and their color is really good. So this is the first camera that isn't like 10,000 US dollars and that professional, hard to use body type that has that in there. So that's kind of like making an entry-level version of their professional things. What else do we need to run through here? There's actually so much. Yes.
Is that waterproof?
Waterproof. Nikon, the camera companies some camera companies tell you exactly what their weatherproofing is, but this one, Nikon don't really. What do they call it? Dust and drip resistant, same as the Z6 III. So if you have all these doors closed and have a hot shoe cover on, then yes, I would say it's fine to go out in the rain, but they don't give you an exact how long and in how heavy of rain. Let me just run through some of the other things for you guys because there's so much. Yeah, give me 1 minute before you interrupt. Let's see. So this is bringing in for the first time R3D, which is red, log NE format. NE meaning Nikon edition. This is the only camera to have it because it's just been released. This has an official dual base ISO of 800 and 6400, but whilst the base is 800, you can still go way lower in the video, just that's the official base, and you're getting 15 stops of dynamic range throughout the entire ISO range, essentially. I saw the charts, I haven't tested it, I'm taking them at their word. You're also getting real-time 3D LUTs, full support for that, and you can download those from the imaging cloud. Kind of, again, taking a lead from Sony. Thank you, Sony, for leading the way with mirrorless cameras. In so many ways, Nikon and Canon are catching up, and we as users are all benefiting from that. It's got an auto mode, so now you've got your auto, your PASM. This also now has a Cinetone auto that gives you a red look, and also essentially an S and Q mode as well. You can download 9 different imaging recipes, just like the Z6 III from the cloud, but that also includes ones that are only available for red. A lot of the other things that this offers are coming from the Z6 III, but one thing that separates this out from the Panasonic, the Sony, I think the Canon as well, fanless. No need for a cooling fan on this guy. As long as you're using compatible high quality CF Express cards, you should find it's the same as the Z9. You can shoot in the highest quality all day and not get it overheating. It does still, however, have a 2 hour and 5 minute per clip limit.
So expensive.
From your perspective, it may seem expensive. Not as in because you're you, but because the cameras you own are less expensive.
Yeah.
But yours is a smaller sensor. This is the big sensor. I don't know if you caught it when I was saying that, but what Aaron shoots with is the Sony equivalent of this one. And Sony still has some maybe advantages, but this has some definite advantages over that. This is half the price of his. So actually, it's not expensive. Like in an absolute sense, yes, $2,200 is a lot of money. But when you compare what other cameras that offer this cost, it's a fucking bargain. I really don't know why it isn't $1,000 more than this. I might buy one. What?
You have so many gadgets. Can you use it?
Okay, let's go.
You only have 2 legs and 2 arms, okay?
You only have one mouth, but it doesn't shut. If, like me, you're polycamerous and have more than one camera in your bag, check out my link tree. We have polycamerous merch available for sale now. So who is this guy for? Coming in, I was first thinking it's for people who have the Red cameras and want this as a backup camera, or maybe who want something above their Z6 III as a more video-oriented one. I saw the micro HDMI as an Achilles heel and wasn't sure about the rest. Now getting hands-on and seeing the extra audio capabilities this guy has, how great the touchscreen works, I'm really just down to the question of, will I miss having a full-size HDMI? Which means how often will I want to put an external display in? Today I did because we're recording through the Atomos, and it's not a fault of the camera per se, but I just find that micro HDMI cables break all the time. One that I brought was already broken. The one that was working is now no longer giving a consistent signal. But if the big screen and the fact that I can record everything on the CF Express card means I don't need an Atomos, it's actually just an extra win for me. So I went from thinking there's no chance this is for me to thinking how many of these do I want for when I'm traveling and filming without a videographer, and getting judged for it. So as you can probably see, it's already sunset here. My time with this is up. When this goes live, I'll actually already be in Bhutan, so this is all the hands-on time I'm gonna get. Thanks to Nikon for letting me get hands-on with it early. If you're a Nikon shooter, check out the setup guide, and you can also check out the polycamerous merch in the description below. Let me know any questions you have, and I'll try to get this back in soon to do maybe a comparison to its equivalents across the different camera brands. Thank you, honey. Her details below. Goodbye. Catch.